All right. Chat GPT with Microsoft's API for Chat GPT, developers can now easily integrate the power of Chat GPT in their own applications and services. So, Tom, as a CEO who's worked with Microsoft business applications for decades, what are your thoughts on Microsoft's API for Chat GPT?
Well, Microsoft is very proactive in integrating the Chat GPT in their products. And my initial thoughts are that there's a lot of things we can do with it, especially around the Dynamics 365 platform. For example, one of the things we're looking at right now is being able to integrate that with the chatbots that are already historically part of Dynamics 365 for the field service particularly, where we can use Chat GPT for customers that are using service customers or field service customers that can communicate with their customers in a natural language way, automatically built into the system. That's one way we're thinking about it. There are many ways we haven't fully thought about yet too. We're still thinking as we go forward, but we are excited about it as it comes out and goes forward.
Sarah, you use Dynamics every day. You help customers set up, configure Dynamics. What are some use cases that you could see where ChatGPT could make a big impact?
Well, I think first with Viva Insights, they're going to integrate ChatGPT technology there to help people produce responses to emails, for example. So based on the past conversation, formulate a response without having to use a template or manually come up with something.
So you think ChatGPT could actually just create it without any prompting ahead of time?
Yeah, like a suggested response. And it would be a smart response, not just a canned template, but taking into account the past conversation, maybe even the sentiment of that conversation.
Okay.
I see that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Francesca, you had mentioned something to the effect of an opportunity that you haven't emailed or exchanged contact with an opportunity for a couple days, and maybe ChatGPT could automatically touch base with them.
So that is something that I do envisioning happening. It's still not there yet, but with Microsoft integrating ChatGPT, I think there will be you'll be able to send reminders.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if I have a client and I send him an email, I do think that I would be able to ask to ChatGPT like, hey, can you please send a reminder 3 days from now? And ChatGPT, I do believe that it will be able to grab all my conversations with that client or prospect and integrating the message and being able to send that message to that client.
Yeah.
Would our clients like that though? Would they know it's generated by artificial intelligence?
I mean, nowadays, I do think that it's going to be a tool that sales people are going to start using, and they're going to start expecting it.
Okay.
Although it's going to be written by ChatGPT, I'm still going to read it every email that I receive. I need to know if I'm going to have a prospect or not. It's just making my job easier. Instead of contacting 1 or 2 clients a day, I can contact.
So that can help you, but
dozens.
I think our clients will know when it's being generated by a computer though, and will it bother them if it is? Our clients.
Well, I think right now, like you get a lot of canned emails, like email templates that you know are email blasts.
Yeah.
But with this, it would be more specific. So it could take into account maybe more info about what the customers recently bought, or
And it's
maybe
more
customer
natural.
service, or if
Yes.
they've previously reached out, anything recent around the conversation with them, and make it more adaptive versus just using a canned template and then like insert first name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually-
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, and I actually, once you start using ChatGPT, you actually feel that you're talking to someone, and it doesn't bother you. It has no effect on you. It's actually kind of exciting in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And every email that I send, I mean, I reread it and see if I can add anything, modify anything. Is just helping me out on how to write it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the sales sequences in Microsoft Dynamics, they helped the sellers follow the right steps in the right order and the right timing. So it's really guiding. It's a guided experience for the
Yes.
seller.
But then also, since our customers would be consumers of Dynamics 365, actually us using it would probably show them that they can use it as well. That's actually beneficial to us.
Exactly. And I mean, it can, you can make more sales because, again, the reach that you can have is instead of writing an email like a pitch for 3 or 4 companies, now you can be able to write it for 10 companies within minutes and reach out to more people within those companies.
So you can actually make more contacts
Yes.
and sell more.
Well, more contacts. That could
Pressure's on, Francesca.
Exactly. Well, if you look into estadísticamente, okay, of course I forgot that word in English.
Say it in Spanish.
That if you reach out to 10 more people, you have better chances on reaching out to the right person.
And Tom, you gave a really awesome example in one of our previous meetings about how it could possibly start to take on some of the pre-sales of generating opportunities.
And that's one of the areas we're looking at, how to integrate Chat GPT with basically customer data or client data. Most clients have historical sales, whether inventory, manufacturing sales, all those pieces. It's possible this is one way to help natural language, artificial intelligence, or bots to look at the data that's out there and be able to communicate directly. So to Francesca's point, where she may be able to touch more customers, our customers may be able to touch more of their customers in a natural way. Hey, for example, we have this, you bought this before, we now have extra stock, and we may be able to sell it to you, where the artificial intelligence looks at these pieces and the Chat GPT basically communicates to it. So that may make a lot of sense. And from a CRM world, it could actually create opportunities automatically, where the salespeople then just manage opportunities instead of trying to find the data. That's all tied together with the whole technology. Chat GPT kind of puts a nice front end on that.
I love the fact that it can not only generate an opportunity on its own, but a good opportunity, because it's using natural language. It's looking at historical data, so it's not a canned template, and it can speak to the prospect or the customer in a way that feels more natural. So I think it's going to be a game changer for not just customer service, but for sales as well.
Yeah, because salespeople hate entering data, and sales leadership hate not being able to see their sales funnel.
Yeah.
That's pretty broad brush. Is that true?
It is.
All right.
I'm not
Okay,
gonna
so I don't want to offend anybody, but that's all right.
I do it.
All right.
But it will make my life easier.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and to be able to draw out those opportunities without even being able to having to think of them, right? Like, I see a potential opportunity here. Let's create one.
Yeah.
Without even so not only are we taking out the step of entering it, but it's also detecting that through that intelligence.
Yeah.
So there's going to be more opportunities that come through just by that. And I think the more opportunities, like you said, the better chance of closing. And you say you've got happy salespeople, and you're being efficient when you're dealing with your customer. So you're not sleeping on an opportunity. You're being proactive in following up on a potential lead.
yes, and also I think that it will start to tie together with sentiment analysis, and that's going to be very impressive, because it's not only going to make our job easier, but it's also going to tell you, like, hey, you're going the right way or the wrong way, or how to approach that client.
Yes.
Because it's going to be approaching it itself.
What do you mean sentiment analysis?
So it's going to be able, with node analysis that Microsoft has, it can start reading if it was a positive, negative, or neutral interaction. That can start guiding you how to write the emails.
So like an inbound email or a phone call or something like that, that's what you're referring to? Or a text message comes in and you can say if it's, okay, I see.
Or even
Exactly.
a meeting.
Even
Oh, yeah.
a meeting.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
With when you record a meeting and you have all the transcript,
Yep.
it might be able to read into that.
Yep. So if you create a meeting with Viva Sales, then the team's transcript is automatically stored, and there's a sentiment analysis on it, which is pretty amazing.
And we can even tell it, like, hey, help me write some notes to follow up with this meeting.
Yeah, like all the time I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a meeting summary. 5 meetings later, that meeting summary never happens.
Yes.
No,
What
sure,
if it
sure it
could
does.
just-
I've always seen them all.
Oh,
Every
yes,
time, yeah.
every time. Yes.
Sure, where's that meeting summary?
Yeah. But it would be helpful to have those, like next time you go to follow up, that you know where things were left.
And basically what you're saying is, yes, I'd have that, but we talked about sentiment. So all the things that are being recorded via tools that are within the Dynamics opportunities or CRM opportunities or whatever communication, then it can actually help determine, the artificial intelligence can determine what happens, and Chat GPT can make the appropriate communication. For a bad example, or a bad email or voicemail could also say, hey, we are sorry you're having an issue, someone will get back to you right away. Something like that automatically generate that kind of thing.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yep.
But also I do see a limitation there is that we've seen certain errors. I've seen certain mistakes in the transcripts. So yeah, although it is helping out a lot, I would suggest to always read before it gets sent. I mean, I would like it better if it's a draft and for me to be able to review it.
That's fair too, though.
And I think you could probably set in Dynamics some parameters around what is allowed, what isn't, and based on your comfort zone with using this technology.
Yeah, it's a work smarter, not harder tool. So it doesn't replace our intelligence, but it makes it easier for us to spend time on things that we enjoy doing.
It does. And I mean, it's not like I'm going to stop having meetings with clients. That is what I like to do. I still like to have the face-to-face, the actual conversation, which makes the relationship. Is just going to make my relationship easier through email.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that comes up in every time I hear conversations about Chat GPT is some of the privacy and ethical concerns. So let's talk about some of the issues around where would our data be stored in Dynamics if it's going to be integrated with Chat GPT?
More important question, yes, where it's stored. It would be stored within the actual corporation's accounts, typically with Azure or wherever it's being kept, whether it's SharePoint, and that can go to another conversation. But the key thing I think what you're getting at is, can that data be controlled? So number one, it's private, not only within a corporation for individuals, but outside the corporation as well. And that's pretty clear. And Microsoft has built in their systems for typical Microsoft has built in their systems pretty strong security by level they need to do. That would actually stay there in order. We've actually looked into this already pretty deeply, where if someone is going to access data, like I gave the example before, where we have some sales data, only the people that are allowed to see that sales data, any would have that, and then give the same rights to Chat GPT. It wouldn't be across the whole board unless that was something they would want to. And and it's not really outside the organization either. So even though Chat GPT is a global tool, it can be used specifically for internal organizations to make sure their data is taken care of the way it needs to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty comforting for some organizations. They're nervous about how it's going to impact and who has access to their data.
We wouldn't have this discussion if it weren't that situation, because we wouldn't be using it ourselves, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, Microsoft takes the security pretty seriously, because there's certain industries, such as the healthcare industry, where there's HIPAA laws, or even in the government, there's really strict boundaries around security. And Microsoft has specifically tried to make sure that they can cater to those verticals. So I don't see them doing anything that's going to put that at risk or change like the current security parameters around the safety of the Dataverse data that's stored in Azure.
I'm really excited about how ChatGPT is going to change, these business applications. I use it every day. I love the tool. I think it's invaluable, and it's allowed me to work a lot smarter and more efficiently, which has been the messaging for Microsoft's software for a long time now, just working smarter.
Yeah, actually, Francesca and I just used it today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're working with a prospect who asked us about integrating with their current ERP, which is an older ERP. And we were talking back and forth about it just from what we know from past projects and what's involved. And we were trying to find out information about this ERP's API. And she asked ChatGPT about this ERP's API, and it came back with an answer saying that they do have an API, but it's no longer supported. And then it described the risks of developing around unsupported API. I thought that was really impressive because sometimes that would take us a couple of conversations, contacts out to that vendor to get that far with the information. It saved us some time.
No, and also before I make sure to say, hey, I do not have this documentation, it's not available, I need to make an hour or even 2 hours research, making sure that it's not available.
Yeah.
So by asking Chat GPT, hey, is this documentation available? And he's saying, no, it's not because of these following reasons. That did save me 2 hours of work that I can spend on prospects, clients, or even new opportunities.
Did you tell him thank you?
Of course.
Yeah.
I love talking to him. Like, thank you so much for your help.
Is it he that we decided that it's a gender he? Is that what we decided, Chat GPT?
Well, it depends on you, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. The other example too, we had a situation just a few weeks ago where one of our clients' workflows weren't doing exactly what they wanted to. It was getting an error. We started doing some research, the normal ways we do, trying things, looking under the hood. Chat GPT at the error message, and it actually gave us this where to look faster than we could have traditionally with the typical search engines that we've had before or other resources. It's actually changed just even the support business being able to do that. It's pretty impressive.
It saved one of our developer resources a couple hours trying to find the issue, where it's really just a field length issue that ChatGPT could detect very easily.
Yeah.
And then we could go straight to solving the problem rather than trying to figure out what was wrong.
Yep.
Go straight to fixing the issue.
So now take that 10 steps forward. So the developer looked at that externally currently. How about when it's already built into Dynamics?
That's a good thought process.
Do you think it could just have solved itself?
And that's the way things are going. You could basically, yes, we haven't thought about how to integrate that. I'm sure Microsoft is and others are, and we can do that. But yes, that would make a lot of sense where if there's an error message shoots out, but self-analyze, and then provide some answers. Here's a list of potential problems.
Speaking of solving itself, I spend quite a couple hours a week answering questions that don't really require me, but because I'm serving customers, I'm happy to respond to them and give information. But with a Chat GPT support resource, a lot of this information could be generated. It could help with user adoption for some of these things, or help them to self-serve. There's already been some effort around this, but I think that with the intelligence level of Chat GPT, a lot more people would use it versus like the current help. That a lot of times you're like, this isn't helpful. I'm still going to go email Sarah and ask her how to do this.
And we do a lot of work with customers who have some sort of field service component. And I think ChatGPT has a lot of implication in that field in helping someone who serves a customer in the field do their job better. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Kind of what I was alluding to earlier in the conversation, but yes, because of being able to, here's an example. Someone may need their air conditioner repaired, for example, and they would be able to put a service request in through a website in a natural language. ChatGPT can look at that and also look at the data into their dynamic system, and they can determine based on the customer information that's there, who this customer is, if it's a known customer, what equipment they already have, and who's available to be able to look at, come out or at a certain time, and they can go back and forth communication. Hey, are you available? We have a technician that's available tomorrow, today, whatever, and come back. And the difference is that that's all available with chatbots today, but it's not necessarily natural language. It's not putting it all together in a way that's make it easy. Right. The other point is, I guess, is putting it in a way that the developers or the client does not have to put those together themselves. They do not have to program every situation. The Chat GPT puts it together so it's natural, and that saves the customers a lot of time and us a lot of time. And then the actual end user gets this natural experience. I think they're semi-talking to a person. It's really makes a lot of sense.
Another thing that Chat GPT is becoming famous for is coding. So I don't do any coding, but I do use it quite a bit for language modeling. We have some developers on staff. Are we doing any playing around with it? What have we come up with in that area?
We have started playing with it on certain things. We haven't really implemented any of the code that's generated, but we are seeing that it can do what we need to do. And we have not implemented in our coding workflow at this point, but that is something we will be working with in the next few months to get that going. Absolutely.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll probably have a couple discussions in the future with some of our results.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I can
Awesome.
see it with Power Automate because with Power Automate, it is a low code, no code tool, but still sometimes there are places where you do need to code or you do need to kind of understand how to produce bits of logic.
Yeah.
And there are tools in Power Automate to do that, but sometimes you still require assistance from a developer. So even a non-developer that's pretty technical like me, still needs help from developer in building more complex Power Automates. So I could see Chat GPT really coming in here and making it more accessible, where people don't have to ask for as much help to build Power Automates, or even instead of having to build out the steps, tell it what you want it to do in natural language, like a business requirement, and then it generates and creates the Power Automate steps and flow for you. And then you can just review and test it. So it's almost like a springboard, like, okay, yeah, you have all these Power Automate templates you can choose from, but what if I just have a couple sentences of language I can give it, and then it creates it?
I love it.
It'd be amazing.
Awesome. I'm good.
All right.
Let's go.
So basically, Chat GPT is it's an exciting tool. I'm really excited about seeing how Microsoft's API, once it is available, how it changes everything. Specifically in our world, the business applications, but in all applications, I'm really excited to see how it evolves.
Yeah, we are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in the different industries, because we don't know all of them, so I do want to see the impact they have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like with field service, we were talking about field service. Say that they went on site to do an assessment and they took some notes and took some pictures, and then you could just say Chat GPT, or the tool that's using the Chat GPT API could just generate a site report for you. So without having to build a template or without having to like stay within a certain template structure, it could just take whatever you have put in and then fill it out into something that the customer is going to understand.
Excellent example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also customer support is going to be so much friendlier because you can actually talk to an intelligent artificial intelligence machine, which is going to be responding. It's not going to be automatic pre-settled conversations that you just did. It's going to start responding to your needs.
Yeah, because what you're putting into it, like where it's getting all that information, are things that humans have already come up with. So it's almost like if I answer a support question once and I answer it really well, I can't tell you how many times I get asked the same question over this past 12 years that I've been working with this product. And of course, some things change and evolve, but it would be nice to reuse those same resources over and over without having to create templates and knowledge bases, that it would just be in this repository of AI.
But even when you go into a website and you start talking to the chatbot, it's like, okay, are you here for this, this, and this? And you being able to actually write down what you need, and the IA machine detecting it is going to be much different than just options until you get to the 30th option that says, did we help you? And you're like, no. Yeah. It's going to save a lot of time and a lot of frustration, I think.
Yes. And even in a complex sales process where they ask a lot of specific questions, to figure out the needs or potential proposed solution, or even prepare an estimate. The Chat GPT could really make that more efficient. Instead of having to build, like Tom, you mentioned earlier with chatbots, we have that kind of, but all of that has to be very like put in. It's not intelligent. Like
Deliberately write it out exactly
Mhm.
versus and what the response are be where this will do it help quite a bit with that.
it's less robotic.
Mhm.
The Chat GPT versus a chatbot.
Yep.
Which it makes sense that it's called a chatbot. It's more robotic,
Yeah.
less flexible, less natural.
So hopefully also the complaints could go down because of it, because it's much friendlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just getting what you need easier. Like when we got our answer easier today. That made us happy.
We were excited.
Yes, we were. Yes.
It's like, look how cool.
You even use it for your cooking, don't you?
I really do. So if I have like just a few ingredients at home, I'm like, what can I cook with this? And I just put them into ChatGPT, and it comes up with a recipe for me. It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fun.
Mm-hmm. And like if a customer was wanting a product with certain features, maybe the salesperson could type that in natural language, and then ChatGPT could say, well, we have these 3 products that have those features. Versus right now, it's like more of a product search catalog. You're searching certain attributes. And if they're not an advanced user, which a lot of salespeople like aren't into data, right? Like they're very people. So talking naturally and being able to put it in natural language would be a huge boost.
Yeah.
And actually, Jennifer, I remember you were mentioning today that ChatGPT has to keep a very neutral kind of language, cannot be biased at any point, even if you ask about politics.
Yeah, which is, I think it's a great feature built into it because you want to have an unbiased answer for, especially when you're dealing with, business systems.
Mm-hmm.
But we did ask it what the best partner is, and they said Andosi. So.
Oh yeah.
PR, but didn't say that.
They didn't say that. We said that.
We're trying to get it in.
Yeah. All right. So let us know what you think about ChatGPT, how it's going to change the business landscape. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We're open to having any conversations. We'll probably have more conversations as the product evolves, as the API is actually released and we start using it.
We've got some early adopters here.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys.